Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, events, and issues surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm Stephen Conway. With me, as always, is Jeremy Finestone. We are contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. Jeremy, we had a busy week, a lot of shows to watch, a lot of things happening on two different continents. We had the New York City appearances, 2 shows over there, 3 shows back in Japan. A lot of news coming out of them. There were some highlights. There were some lowlights. Some of these shows I don't think hit on all cylinders. We're going to get into that. There were other matches that certainly did. We saw one of the better matches of New Japan's year, I think, in Japan there as part of the TV title tournament. So a lot to talk about and a lot to get into. Very busy time leading up to this big show in Osaka coming up this weekend, Jeremy. I mean, there was a lot of wrestling to watch. Did you enjoy it for the most part?
I enjoyed it for the most part. You could definitely make an argument that there was some burnout ahead. But when one of the matches happens to be one of your favorite matches in New Japan in that cluster, you're very forgiving of the entire block as a result. So there was a lot, but there was one match that we'll get to that I loved so much that it made everything elevated on a whole. And I was happy to report that.
Yeah, well, we had 2 shows to start off the week, and by week I mean it was on the 26th, the week for us. We'd record these on Tuesday, so we kind of looked through it that way, through that prism. But they had 2 big shows at Korakuen Hall that were cheering fans. So only 700 people there, but they were kind of separated and they could make noise and things. That always energizes the crew. You definitely see a difference in the way the guys work. There's a little bit more energy. There's a little bit more interaction with the fans because they get something back instead of just applause. And it really made for a fun couple of shows. And we're going to go into those first. Then we're going to go to New York. We're going to go chronologically. And then we'll see what was going on in New York City. But we'll begin with that. And Korakuen Hall, we had angles. We had some really good matches, and it all began on the 26th. So the first match was Aaron Henare and Gideon Gray. They defeated Yuto Nakashima and Kosei Fujita. I thought that having Gideon Gray in this match actually planted a tiny seed of doubt, just because, Gray almost always does the job. But no, sure enough, Aaron Henare did get the win on that one and beat the Young Lions. But it was very clear that fans are getting into the young lion underdog vibe again. They were pretty loud for him, even though they knew they were probably doomed.
Gideon Gray is growing on me, buddy. He's growing on me.
He really is. We're going to talk more about him later, but I got to say, like, this little Autumn Attack tour, he has really taken on a lot of the entertainment load for United Empire and has kind of given them a little bit of a break, taking a few bumps off their card and put them on his. And he's spent more time in the ring and kind of as the center of attention than you would normally think. And I think he's done well with it. We're going to get into more of that later with Gideon Gray. But I mean, I enjoyed it. Now the next match was a preview match. Basically, this was David Finlay, Tiger Mask, and Alex Zane against Suzuki-gun, Zack Sabre Jr., Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Taka Michinoku. This match basically was a preview match for Zack Sabre and David Finlay in the TV title tournament. That was a babyface win there. Moving on, we had Hiroshi Tanahashi and Hikuleo over the House of Torture. That would be Evil and Dick Togo. Tana was having a bad knee day. Tanahashi has good knee days and bad knee days, and some days he's more mobile than others. And this one, you could tell he was pretty stiff. I don't know if it was rainy out. I know that's what happens to my knees whenever it rains in Tokyo. But Tanahashi was moving pretty labored, right? Not as bad as Hiroshi Tenzan, but not as far away from it as he probably would have liked.
He's got to pick and choose his spots, and he's not on every card anymore. He's not doing everything anymore, but he's still Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he still knows what he needs to do for the people that come out specifically to see him. And there are a lot of people that specifically go out just to see him. Yeah. So it's not going to be a great match every time, but it's going to be the best Hiroshi Tanahashi that he can give you on that evening. That's what he can give you.
Yeah, you're right. And very, very few people, precious few people in wrestling can connect to a crowd the way he does. It's special to watch when you see him. It's something to learn. we'll talk in there. We'll talk about that more too later. The Bullet Club, Kenta, Taiji Ishimori, and Gedo defeated Suzuki-gun. That was Taichi, El Desperado, and Doki. Again, this is part of that preview for the 4-way junior heavyweight match that's going to be coming up at the Tokyo Dome. There's going to be another chapter of that in Osaka on the 5th. But there was something I noticed that Kenta and Taichi, I thought, were really good in the ring with each other. Like when they were in there together, I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more of that in the future. Again, junior heavyweight preview, but I thought the heavyweights worked pretty hard in this match. The only other thing I do have a question here, Jeremy. See if you can help me out with this. Now, part of Taichi's shtick is at a key point in the match, he rips the pants off, right? He's got the long pants. He pulls them off. The snaps come off, and he's there in his trunks. Now, if apparently this is a bit of a kryptonite moment for him, though, because if somebody else does it before he is ready, it short circuits him. It's like hitting the off switch, because the finish for this was Kenta yanking the pants off, Taichi covering himself like he's suddenly embarrassed, even though he pulls those things off himself in every match, hits him with a low blow, and then rolls him up. Well, the referee was distracted. So Taichi's pants seem to be a mixed blessing for him as far as that character goes.
I'm going to give you an analogy that you're going to appreciate here. You know baseball, and you know European football. So you know
yes.
that if you're taking a penalty kick, or if you're coming up to bat and it's your big moment, and something ruins your vibe or your little routine right before you get in there, everything goes off. Like you're off your game, you're off your element. This is your big moment. This is your at bat. This is your thing. You get flustered, it's all downhill. Everything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong right there. You're absolutely right that it's a kryptonite. If you trip, if you stumble on that penalty kick, you think you're going to be able to land that shot in the corner of the post? Hell no, you're not. Man, you're not even going to make it at all.
You know what? I think you convinced me. I think you convinced me of that spot because I was like, well, but I think you convinced me. All right, I think it works.
Like, you lose your mojo, man. You lose your mojo. There's nothing about it.
And Taichi's all about the mojo, no question about that. So I think you solved it. There you go. So the next one was another really good match here. Sanada and Hiromu Takahashi against Togi Makabe and Master Wato. This is a little less than 10 minutes, but Wato looked really good in this match, Jeremy. He looked terrific in this one, and especially with Sanada, not only with Hiromu. Everybody looks good with Hiromu. Hiromu is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and Sanada is excellent too. But I kind of came away from this match thinking Wato versus Sanada might be really good. And maybe it's just a matter of Wato just stepping up, like we mentioned in the past weeks, that he is doing better. And you and I sense that he understands this is a big run for him. This whole 4-way against 3 of the better junior heavyweights in the world. You know, he knows that it's time to step up. I think he's doing it, because I left this match thinking I'm looking forward to seeing him against Hiromu. I wouldn't mind seeing him against Sanada. I mean, what more can you ask for from a tag match? That's exactly what he was supposed to do.
I mean, his stock is going up, and we're just here watching it as it's happening. And there's a part of me that thinks Sanada's really into the sprint matches. Like, he just really likes doing really quick matches rather than like going 25, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Like he doesn't mind doing the high intensity interval training at all. He's way about it. No, but I think we're seeing different sides of these wrestlers. Kenta, same way. These sprint matches have done well for him in a way that, like, I'm feeling reinvigorated in watching his matches. So we've been talking about this TV title match and the sprint concept, and so far I feel like it's kind of paying off in dividends in some way, shape, or form.
I've been enjoying it, and it's bringing us something pretty special later on in this show. Mm-hmm. Then we had something and we've been seeing these combinations. It's Jeff Cobb and then the junior heavyweight tag team champions TJP and Francesco Akira against various combinations of Los Ingobernables, always including Bushi and Titan since they're challenging, but a lot of times with Naito in there. And these matches have been really good. They've been high energy. They've been getting over Titan and Bushi as a team, and mostly putting over their big move, the Angel Immortale, which is that terrific move where it's like the MX, where the lung blower move, where Bushi pulls the guy down, sticks his knees up, the guy crashes down on Bushi's knees, but then he holds him there. Titan springboards off the top rope and comes down with the double foot stomp on him. looks pretty rough.
Crush the dude.
Doesn't look like much fun to take for me, but these guys are pros. They know what they're doing. But
I mean, if you do your core workouts, it'll be okay.
It'll be fine. Yeah, you're right. That's Pilates helps here. But what we had here was Bushi actually took the loss on this. Now, I'm glad they booked this. And so far, the challengers have been rolling the champions. I mean, it has been win after win after win for Teton and Bushi, to the point that I was starting to feel like, okay, well, it's impossible these guys are actually going to win the title, because they're not going to just bury the champions like this and have them lose every preview tag. Every preview tag they lose, and then poof, they get to the title match, and of course, they retain, right? Well, this one actually planted a little bit of seed of doubt. I'm fine with whoever wins this match. I think both teams are terrific. I enjoy TJP and Akira. I enjoy Teton and Bushi so far. So that's not the point. It's not that I'm hoping that the champions retain or any of it. I just want a good match. But I'm glad they did this, because with the New Japan booking patterns, if somebody just trucks somebody all the way through a tour, they usually end up doing the job on the last night. Now we're not totally sure who's going to win.
The ambiguity is definitely there, and they're spicing up these undercard preview matches in a way that, if Bushi and Teton ended up winning the title before the junior tag league, I think it could one half a dozen of the other over Akira and TJP. Yeah. Although I feel like they've had it up to this point. Why would you take it from them before the tournament? You kind of undercut them, but I am enjoying the matches, and it feels almost inconsequential who's going to win and who's going to lose.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be seeing that match more. This isn't going to be the only time these two teams meet. So I feel like it's just chapter one of what could be a really good rivalry.
Tip of the iceberg with Teton.
That's all. The guy's talented as hell. I mean, I know he can't be in Japan. He's not going to be in Japan full time. He's still a big deal in CMLLs. They're going to want him back. But and so, but as he comes and goes, this is an improvement for the junior tag division. This is a nice addition to it. So then we moved on to this to the World Television Title Tournament. We're in this is the quarterfinals at this point, and this was Toru Yano and the Great Okan. Now, Yano wrestled more than he usually does in this one. There was less goofiness. I'm not going to say none. At one point, Great Okan's ponytail was taped to the rail, but thankfully Gideon Gray was prepared and got him out of it. And of course, the winner of this match, being Yano, was almost not the point, was it? Because we had a major angle that happened here during the match. Just as something nefarious was about to happen to Yano, lights go out at Korakuen Hall, and people were kind of trying to get their phones to flash or see what the heck was going on. And the lights came back up, and who was standing there next to the ring but the Great freaking Muta. Great Muta in New Japan in Korakuen Hall again with the full getup, and did not have to go up the steps and into the ring. That's a lot to ask of his body right now. But Okan helpfully stuck his head out the ring and said, "What are you doing here?" Just enough to get misted by the Great Muta, blinding him. Yano rolls him up and gets the win. The crowd loved this. I mean, they thought you can tell they clearly did not expect this. I mean, this was a big, happy surprise to them that all-time New Japan legend Great Muta was there. And it turns out he's going to be teaming with Okada and Yano on November 20th at the crossover event. I was all of that kind of came as a surprise and a nice one. What did you think of seeing an unexpected angle like this? Did we lose Jeremy? We lost Jeremy. Oh gosh. All right. Well, he'll work on that. It's one of those things where it's the 6-man match. Of course, Kaiji Muto, the Great Muta, is going to be doing a final tour. His career is wrapping up. He's not the most mobile human being anymore, and he knows that kind of his career might be coming to a close. He's doing a handful of shows to finish up, and Jeremy's back with us.
He's having a fantastic year, doing very little.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also the theme of this match because, well, Toru Yano did more in a match that was an angle for somebody else because he probably respected him so much
I
than
think
he
that's
does
true,
in
yeah.
his own matches for his own purposes, for his own angles. He literally, like, I was watching this match, I'm like, wow, Toriano's really doing he's actually participating in this tournament. Like, it felt more like a G1 Toru Yano match because they're essentially the same main frame of a match. He's never going 25 minutes in a G1 match.
No.
Basically. So it amused me in that aspect. I'm really looking forward to the last 4 months of Muta-ness that we're going to get all over the place. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Okan and Muta actually tag together recently?
It might have happened. I don't have that in front of me. I don't have that in front of me.
It was like a blink of an eye, and everyone just kind of here, there, and maybe I dreamed it, but I'm going to look that up while we're talking about it because we're probably going to return back to this guy at some point in the conversation. So it's the beginning of something really cool, and it was a clever way to keep Okan strong in this match and proceed to create a thoroughfare for another potential entrant in this TV tag title tournament to make their way to the finals.
And you mentioned it earlier. I mean, we might as well mention it now that part of Muto's tour is this guy is so respected, and of course he has such a history with New Japan that they're bringing him back for this show here and doing this 6-man tag. He's actually going to be working for Pro Wrestling Noah as well on January 1st against Shinsuke Nakamura from WWE, who's gotten special permission apparently to go over and work this match. And you can see from Nakamura's social media that he's thrilled. This is somebody that's of course, one of the biggest names in Japanese wrestling history. He's up there, Kaiji Muto. And so everyone kind of wants to be a part of his farewell tour. And I think it speaks to him and his legend that he has been able to keep all these channels of communication open. He's been showing up on AEW shows, Noah shows, New Japan shows, and everywhere the dude goes, everyone's happy to see him. So this was a neat surprise.
So they were tag team. They weren't a tag together. It was a 6-man tag, and it was for Noah, and it was during All Out weekend, so it just fell under the radar.
Oh. What was the match?
So it was Muta and it's all in Japanese. It was for Noah, Muta, Great Okan, and Nosawa, and at the time it was a mystery opponent.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
all right.
But they did tag for Noah at some point. So the seeds have been planted, and we'll have to pull the thread more and make sure that we're fully versed on what their previous history was that maybe led to this surprise, maybe not being so much of a surprise.
Well, it certainly was to the crowd because there was this whole gasp when he showed up there. That was pretty,
I don't think anybody was expecting it, but, they have been interacting because of their greatness up to this point. That was the deal, the Great Okan and the Great Muta.
Of course.
There was a greatness respect.
Well, whatever happened, something went wrong because he misted the living hell out of the guy too. It was a healthy misting, by the way. No one really who does it better? Great Kabuki? That's about it, right? It's like Great Kabuki and Great Muta as far as the misting goes. This was a healthy.
You can be pretty
misting.
Forgiving of Muta, pretty much anything that he does. It's just
the mist.
Okay, buddy.
The mist thing, it's like it's cool until you think about it. It's just a guy spitting in your face.
Yeah.
It's just a guy spitting in your face, and you got to. Anyway, and so that wasn't even the main event. We had something even better after that. So Ren Narita and Tomohiro Ishii in the TV title tournament to end this show. This was so great. I love this match. 14 minutes, 33 seconds. Once again, they tease, but do not quite get to that 15-minute time limit. This was worked at a fast pace. This whole thing I wrote down Bushido contest. That whole the Japanese Bushido is like their it's not the same thing as a macho contest, but that kind of I'm going to stand face to face and we're going to trade blows until someone crumbles. A lot of that, which is of course reminiscent of everything Katsuyori Shibata did. Ishii sold for him so well, and I think Jeremy Tomohiro Ishii, his style, his perceived toughness, and it's not perceived, it's real. I mean, he's a very, very tough guy. I'm talking about in character, that whole kind of stone pit bull comes straight at you. I mean, who would be a better opponent for getting over this Shibata-esque version of Ren Narita than Ishii? And he did it brilliantly. He sold great. You believed everything that happened in that match. And Narita ended up getting the win, which is really shows you where they think he's going in the overall pecking order. They take Ren Narita very seriously in that front office there. They really see something in him. And I agree, this match was a big moment for him. And he over-delivered, if anything. He got that beautiful overhead belly-to-belly with a bridge on a big man, and got it for a big pop. I mean, Ishii's not tall, but he's a fire hydrant of a human being. He's it's not easy doing that move to him. He crushed it. This was one of the better matches in New Japan in a very long time, maybe in the year. I'm not saying it's match of the year, but I'm saying it's on any top 5-10 list. I mean, I know G1 had some great stuff, but this match was wonderful.
This may not be the match of the year, but it is my favorite match of the year.
Nice. Okay.
I have not marked out for a match as much as I did watching this match. I watched it probably 3 times just because the crowd did not think Narita was going to win this match right away.
Right.
But this crowd was behind Ren Narita, and they were behind him because Ren Narita made them believe that he was going to win this match. Not that he might win this match. Not that, like, it was possible he was going to win this match. He was going to win this goddamn match. And he fought it like he was going to win this goddamn match. There was not an ounce of fear in his face that he was going to beat Ishii. I mean, speaking of strong style here, Stephen Conway and Jeremy Finestone, we are speaking of strong style. This is the wrestling matches that I thought of when we came up with this show that I wanted to talk about. It was just how great this goddamn match was. Now,
it was tremendous stuff.
It really was. It really was. We've been talking about Ren Narita for probably about 2 weeks. We have the updated TV title tournament, but we'll get to that in a minute. But what I'm going to do is play a clip from our show 2 weeks ago where we talked about what we thought Ren Narita's potential was going to be in this.
All right. Rita feels a little bit higher up than that, but I mean, if he loses to Ishii in the first round, then maybe not.
No one would care.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, no one would lose any sleep if he lost to Ishii in the first round.
Yeah,
his momentum is all about getting close and being shown that he can get to the pedestal. But if he doesn't reach it right now, the money would be in the chase after that.
Fair enough.
So you could go if you go with him, you go all the way, or you go near the way. If you don't have that like plan to really just get him high into this tournament, there's no point in doing it at all. It's all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, have a great match against Ishii and lose, or go all the way to the finals there. I think that's it. I mean, losing in the semifinals is about 6 of one, half a dozen the other. There you go.
I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I don't think my position has changed in any way since then. What about you?
No, I think he's going to the finals. I think he might win the whole tournament.
At this point, like, if it's either Sabre Jr. or Evil, if we get to the results, but either one of them, there's a story to be told for him to either overcome or lose to either match. But the momentum is clearly in his direction.
With this match, with Ishii, how much would you like to see him against Sabre in that final?
I would very much like to, and I think they're going to hold off on that until, like, I think they're going to like make you want it before you get it.
I wouldn't mind, and the Evil thing would be just the classic baby. No one in the crowd would be rooting for Evil, whereas a Zack Sabre Jr. final with him would probably be a split crowd. Some of the people would be on the Suzuki Goon side of that one, but no one.
Hell of a 15 minutes.
No one would want Evil to beat him in that, to beat him in that final if they do it.
Could you imagine the finals being decided on a coin flip?
I hope not.
Could you just see like two guys beating the crap out of each other, and then all said and done, they legit don't know who's gonna walk away with the title.
I like that. It's an interesting little psychological thing they did with that, because the idea of a coin flip deciding this is so unsatisfying. Yet the fact that they tease it but don't do it, you're almost like when the 3 count comes, you're like, oh, thank God it finished.
Because you hate it so much.
Yeah. I don't know, but there you go. So that was night 1 of Korakuen, and then they went on to night 2 on the 27th, and there was another cheering crowd. And we're going to kind of get through the undercard a little bit, because we talked about some of the main points. A lot of them are the same, quite frankly, from the 26th to 27th underneath. So Aaron Henare got a win over Ryohei Oiwa. That's classic Young Lion match there. Yano and Ishii wrestled Narita and Yuto Nakashima. Now, there are a couple of things I want to mention on this one. This is, of course, the preview for the next round where Narita wrestled Yano. That happens Sunday. We'll talk about that later. In this one, Ishii gave Nakashima a lot, by the way, in this one. He really sold for the Young Lion quite a bit. And then Yano taped Yano in the brawl outside, because all tag team matches in New Japan end with the other people that aren't legal brawling around ringside while the 2 legal guys do the finish inside. So as Ishii was finishing off Nakashima, Ren Narita was being taped to the rail by Toru Yano, and I think the story here was you still got a few tricks to learn, kiddo, and he ended up stuck there and was having a complete temper tantrum, almost a Zack Sabre-esque temper tantrum at ringside while he's taped to the rail there. So they did that, and he was freed, and then he immediately sprinted after the chaos entrance, trying to get at Yano, which we never found out if we got him. I tell you, probably not. I'm thinking Yano hit in the concession stand or something.
He's good at that kind of thing.
Slick. So actually, there's no concession stand at the. It's just the merchandise stand. Now I think about. When I was
just going with the bit. Just going with the bit.
No, I know. And then I was like halfway through that, and I was like, wait a minute, I was in Korakuen Hall, and I couldn't get a drink. What was it?
We're gonna get corrected on YouTube.
yeah. There's I know. Yeah, you're right. It's different over there as far as like how concessions work and things. But there's merch. There's plenty of merch. Don't get me wrong. You want to buy a T-shirt, you can do it. Let's see. Yes, United Empire defeated Makabe and Honma. This is just keeping the challenger strong, keeping the upcoming title challenger strong. Now here we had another one with the LIJ defeating Gideon Gray, Akira, and TJP. That's with the Angel Immortal. I think they got Gray with that one. But yeah, that was another one win there for LIJ. We went to, let's see, that was Hiroshi Tanahashi, Hikuleo, Master Wato, and Alex Zane over Suzuki-gun combo of Taichi, El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Taka Michinoku. This was another little showcase for the junior heavyweight stuff coming up. And one thing I did want to mention there, Tanahashi and Taichi wasted a lot of time doing the comedy. The match only went 9 minutes, and a lot of it was Tanahashi and Taichi kind of goofing off a little bit, which was amusing, but it was just this was not a high impact night for any of the people in this match. But Hikuleo's doing a good job relating to that crowd as a babyface. Doing all right there. He was an effective heel, and he certainly has improved in his work rate, but I've been encouraged just by how well he is responding to the fans. I think he's going to make a good babyface.
Yeah, I think that he has a lot of momentum. I think he has a lot of potential, and it's ultimately why I find what he's surrounded with in his feud is so frustrating for me, because it just it doesn't have to be this complicated. He has all the potential in the world.
I think they're trying to get to it, but it's a longer road than they assume. The next match was the Gedo show, and this was Tetsuya Naito and Sanada over Kenta and Gedo. Gedo just decided to go to work this night. I mean, and Gedo does, Gedo's pretty getting up there, but boy, he was amusing in this one. First of all, he got stuck in the Paradise Lock for an incredibly long amount of time. Just stayed there forever. And then eventually, Sanada ended up getting a drop toe hold. So Kenta drop toe holds Sanada into Geto's ass to get him out of the Paradise Lock. So now Geto's pissed at Kenta for knocking Sanada into him because that hurt. So now he just pouts at ringside and refuses to tag when Kenta comes up with the tag right there. Kenta has to beg his forgiveness. And then Gedo goes, for some reason, Gedo was just like, I'm carrying the show tonight. You guys take the night off. I'm just going to have fun. And he did. And also, I just want to mention this, Jeremy, that Gedo cursing in English during his matches is a highlight of any New Japan show.
It's charming.
It is. There's just this, like you just hear da 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 da. Oh shit! Like, and it just cracks me up every time. I just don't get tired of it. Every time I end up giggling.
I noticed the same thing, and I got a pretty good chuckle out of it. I was like, man, he's made and he doesn't care.
No, yeah. What's the Booker gonna do? Fire him? So anyway, that was the preview, and then we went on to the television title tournaments. We had some serious business here at the end of this one, and the first one was Evil and Yoshihashi. So this one, they worked hard on this. Any of this House of Torture stuff to me gets a little tough because it's just not New Japan's forte. It's not what they do best. Hiding things from referees, half the time they don't. There's a lot of inconsistency with things, but this wasn't a bad version of this. They went very complicated at the end. They bumped Marty Asami. Evil shoved him in the way of a Yoshihashi super kick, and Yoshihashi looked appropriately sorry for it. He was regretful. They did the chair around the neck spot where he stuffs a chair around the neck of Yoshihashi and then swings another chair like a baseball bat, which just looks like that's something. I just feel like that one's going to go wrong someday. I mean, he knows what he's doing. Doesn't that look like he's going to knock somebody's teeth out with that?
I cringe. I cringe when they do those dueling chair shots.
Yeah, I know.
Not great.
Watanabe's pretty good. He's he knows what he's doing. But my favorite spot in the match, and also the one that convinced me that Yoshihashi was going to lose, was when Evil grabbed Marty again. Marty is now recovered from the super kick. The referee grabs him. Marty swats his hand away and then slaps the living hell out of Evil to a big pop from the Korakuen Hall crowd. But I just thought, okay, if they gave the fans that happy moment, they're not going to give them a happy moment in the finish. And sure enough, Evil manages to run him into the exposed turnbuckle, which, of course, Dick Togo pulled the pad off earlier. And Marty Asami visibly disgusted as he counts the 3 count on Evil. And
not the only one visibly disgusted.
Yeah. It was under 12 minutes. Yoshihashi's good. Evil's good. But, this is, this House of Torture stuff isn't what New Japan does well. And it's, this was
the same
better
dance
than most.
routine for the same dance partner for the last 6 months.
Yeah,
and there's nothing fresh about it. They need some time away. They're going to look like a Randy Orton feud vibe to just like them being done to death. And the price that Yoshihashi paid for getting a win over Cobb is losing to Evil. So
I guess that's
he's slotted right where he should be, I think that's about right. Moving on, I just think that like Evil's one of those gatekeepers that, somebody's going to get past him eventually, whether at this tournament or afterwards. And somebody's going to, make their name off of beating him at some point.
It's an effective act in that whenever someone does beat him or beat House of Torture, there is this kind of a joy that comes out of it. Like, oh, thank goodness we didn't, and we're going to get that because I don't see Evil winning this tournament. I feel like he's going to lose to the winner.
But he already has a belt, so they don't double belt people all that much.
Not much.
Yeah, but they do sometimes. And, given that it's a house show title, even though it sure feels more valuable than that right now. I think that there's just a ceiling, and he might be too good for the title. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I feel like I know the direction they're going with it. But we'll find out here. But anyway, the next one is another quarterfinal match. Zack Sabre Jr. He defeated David Finlay in just over 13 minutes, 13:03. I don't have a lot of notes for this one, and it's not a knock on the match. This was a really good match. It was exactly what you would think that these would be. It's Zach and Finlay, both good wrestlers who know exactly what they're doing. It was a good technical wrestling match, and Zack Sabre Jr. got the win, just like he probably should, to set up the thing with Evil. So no complaints. A real good match. Certainly worth your time. It was good, and it sets up Zack Sabre Jr. against Evil in the next round. And there's quite a bit of history actually between those two. Of course, they just had the match in the G1 where Zach beat Evil very quickly in a kind of
nervous
flash win. Exactly. But there was an ongoing feud back when LIJ first started going babyface. Really babyface. I mean, people always kind of rooted for Naito because he was the cool heel. But when they first actually were babyface, Evil and Zach kept meeting in various places, the New Japan Cup, or in the G1, or in tag matches with Sonata and Evil against Zach and Taichi. And back then, Suzuki-gun were heels. You know, they were true heels. And the story was that Evil couldn't get past Zack Sabre Jr. And they would have special matches. And I don't remember if it was at Dominion or if it was like a King of Pro Wrestling, but it was like on a pay-per-view type of level event where he finally got his singles win over Zack Jr. And this was a story that went on for a good chunk of a year in New Japan, was that that Zack was the ceiling that Evil would run into, as when the fans were on Evil's side. Now we get to do that again, and these guys do have chemistry together, and a lot of experience wrestling one another. So it'll probably end up being a pretty good match between, but with the roles reversed. Now I think everybody is going to be on Zack's side, even if Zack likes to play the little snotty punk every once in a while on the microphone. I think they still like him more than House of Torture.
I would argue that it is impossible for Zack Sabre Jr. to have a bad match under 15 minutes, regardless of who his opponent is. Opponent, opponent, doesn't matter. It's a match.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. And those were the two shows from Korakuen Hall, and we'll get into the next round of the tournament, which kind of took place in Chiba on the 30th. But before we get to that, Jeremy, we had this Fight TV double pay-per-view, the Rumble on 44th Street, and the night before. And what can you say about this one? I've been trying to figure out a way to word this, but enjoyable, certainly. I liked watching the shows. Was it a $30 pay-per-view can't miss thing? Not at all. There was some fun stuff on there, but I did feel underwhelmed, like I was watching a very special episode of Strong more than I was watching something that you can't miss. And I think the night before the Rumble actually had more kind of, because it was a surprise show. First of all, the night before the Rumble, they didn't announce any of the matches beforehand. You just had to see who was going to wrestle who when they went to the ring. And they were just kind of like, oh, neat, him, or her, like, oh, this is cool. Let's see this. That kind of made it more fun. I think that the Rumble on 44th Street was just kind of a good show, but nothing I'm doing cartwheels over. What was your impression of this?
The more that I've gone to another number of New Japan shows like of this level live. And I'm probably going to the one in San Jose in February with Garrett Gonzalez and a couple other people. That's at the Fight Game Media Network. There is a ceiling to these shows in which really the big draw is that you get to see your favorites live. That's where they're making their money, is that they get to support the show and see their favorite live. That doesn't necessarily translate well into being a pay show that you want to see. Like, this should have been Royal Quest adjacent, where maybe a few days afterwards it was free on New Japan World. Not maybe $15, $20 for both shows, like $9.95. I don't know. I'm haggling here, but it doesn't feel like the $30 for both shows. You came away feeling like you got your money's worth. And maybe that's me. Maybe my money valuation is different than others, but I was going to watch a show either way. And spoiler alert, I didn't finish the Rumble on 44th that night. And I barely finished the main event before we started the show today. It just it didn't feel like it was important for me to get to. And don't get me wrong, I ended up watching it and it was fine, but I felt like my feelings were validated by a main event being a tag between Okada, Jay White, Hard Rock Juice Robinson, and Eddie Kingston. If we had gotten Eddie Kingston versus Jay White in a singles match, I feel like my opinions about all this would have been way different because it would have felt consequential.
Mm-hmm.
As it was, like, there were a number of great matches on the card, but I don't feel like anything I watched on that card that if I had missed it, I would have been upset that I missed it.
I'm sure it was a pretty good live experience. Like, for the people there in that building, this was probably a lot of fun. There were surprises. There were people that you didn't expect. There were combinations of people that you maybe didn't think you were going to see. And certainly you got the chance to see a couple of big New Japan stars in person. So it was probably great for them. I agree with you. Off of a Fight TV event, it didn't feel like the most consequential thing in the world, but we're going to run it down and we'll go over the night before the Rumble, which I actually had more fun with. Just because that show. Yeah, and the first one was Kevin Knight and the DKC defeating the Forever Hooligans, the reunited Alex Kozlov and Rocky Romero. And seeing Kozlov in the ring, first of all, boy, the dude stayed in shape. It's been a little while since he's been in there, and with Rocky. And this wasn't bad. I mean, Kevin Knight and the DKC were getting a title shot the next night, so the finish was pretty apparent. Knight and DKC won it, but overall, just like I said, a fun surprise to open.
It was a fun one-off for Alex Kozlov. How quickly did you ping that it was him in that video with Rocky Romero? Because I looked at it like, is that Kozlov? And I was like, and then because I was like, maybe they just got a guy. I really didn't think Kozlov was going to wrestle. So I was like, oh, they just got Kozlov, but they really didn't do a good job of obscuring that's Kozlov. And then, oh no, that's Kozlov's wrestling. Oh, yeah, he's wrestling. Kozlov's not rusty at all.
No, it really wasn't. And
Kozlov looked great, and he did the job. Wow. Okay.
It almost makes me wish he would go back to wrestling and off commentary. I'm just saying. I'm not a big fan of his commentary at all. I don't think he's very good at it. But
I enjoyed what I saw, and I feel like there was a confidence in him that when you were watching it, that would give him consideration that there's more to come, even though nothing has really been said.
So he and on night one it was Ian Riccaboni on play-by-play along with the Ford and Aiden English there doing the show with him there, and that was good. That's a good team and things. Kozlov was back for night two, and it hurt. He brings things down for me. I don't think he's very good.
Austin Powers costume for this show was a little played out for me, but you guys do you, okay?
it's an easy rental at the costume shop. You can they all have one. They all have. Fred Rosser then defeated Crowbar. Devon Storm. I popped for this. This Devon Storm / Crowbar. Boy, he was really, really good back in his day, and he still wrestles on the independent scene. It's not like the guy's dead or anything like that, but it just kind of had a flashback when he came out there. It was like, oh God, geez, Crowbar, yeah. And I always enjoyed his work, and back in the WCW days. And I thought, he wrestles differently. Of course, we all would after all that time. But overall, I thought he looked good. The crowd was happy to see him. This was another happy one for me. Fred Rosser beat him, of course. That's Rosser had a big title match the next night, which we're going to get to because he was challenged afterwards by Jonathan Gresham. But fun. Yeah, Devon Storm back in there and looking good.
His time away or his time in wrestling was when I was away in wrestling earlier in my youth. But I felt like he held his end of the bargain. Fred Rosser showed up to show up and do work. Suntan Superman did his job. Made him look good. Everybody looked good.
Can't talk me out of Devon Storm. I like it. It
was a good show.
Yeah, I was happy. Aussie Open then took on the SATs. That's the Spanish. It stands for Spanish Announce Team, which I'd actually forgotten. I was trying to remember what the SAT stood for, but that was it. Of course, it was Joel and Jose Maximo. When I first got into Ring of Honor, there were, I'm trying to remember, like the Maximos and the Briscoes had these air show matches where they were just flying all over the buildings. And they were the spot monkeys that were going to kill the business 22 years ago. So the business ain't dead yet. We're still rolling along. And it was cool to see these guys. They kind of popularized the Spanish Fly. I don't know if they invented it, but now, boy, that's a move that you see constantly, and they certainly popularized it.
The two-man Spanish Fly was definitely good.
Yeah, and they hit it, and it was good to see them. But that was one of these things where there was a tape of them against Mark and Jay Briscoe, and it was one that got passed around among wrestling fans and in locker rooms and things is just like, look at what these guys are doing. And of course the veterans were like, oh, this is crap. But the younger folks were just like, wow, this is really fun. Like, look at all this. This is just full speed ahead. So again, nice little nostalgia moment.
This match was ridiculous and dumb. And I mean that in the lovingest, most earnest way possible. It was ridiculous. It was a spot monkey show.
Gonna kill the business. Gonna kill the business, I tell you.
How dare they?
I know. Just like Harley Race was going to kill it in the early 70s. Mike Bailey came on with Mascarada Dorada, Mighty Monty, and Smiley in a quick, this is less than 10 minutes, this little 4-way match, but Speedball Mike Bailey got the victory there. There are not a whole lot of notes you can do on this one because it's just guys doing stuff for 10 minutes quickly until someone pins somebody else. Enjoyable.
This was a GCW match, dude. This was all it was. It's just if you book this match for GCW, it would be the exact same match.
There you have it. Yeah, that's well put. Yeah. We also had Minoru Suzuki over Tracy Williams. Suzuki had a heck of a weekend, by the way. Mm-hmm. He was all over the place. But he defeated Tracy Williams in 13 minutes, 14 seconds, doing exactly what you would think. It was a Suzuki match. They did anyone that wrestles Minoru Suzuki tends to do the Suzuki match, probably because you do whether you want to or not. And I think Suzuki's going to make you. But I think most guys kind of want to have one of those, right? Where we're just going to have like a stiff kind of shoot type of match. Tracy was good here. And of course, Suzuki won. So it's fine. Any thoughts on this one?
I mean, other than Suzuki had the weekend that Tom Lawler wishes he had, no.
Ooh. The next one was Shingo Takagi over Jake Something. The same type of thing, really. It was a Shingo Takagi match. It was a bit of a showcase for him. Jake Something did well, but we're here for Shingo, and that was about a win for him. Final one was a very long elimination match. This thing almost went a half an hour, and it didn't need to. But it was the team.
A lot of fluff. A lot of fluff in this match.
Royce Isaacs, Tom Lawler, El Phantasmo, Juice Robinson, Jay White, Jor-El Nelson. They took on the babyface group of Yo Homicide, The Amazing Red, Eddie Kingston, Kazuchika Okada, and Jon Moxley. The thing that got me about this one is it came down at the end to Moxley and Eddie Kingston against so you had the AEW World Champion against the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, because of course the last guy left for the heels was Jay White, and it was with a convincing double throw over the top rope to toss out Jay White. And I mean, a babyface finish is just fine here, and he didn't do a job. He got thrown over the top rope. It's not a traditional loss right there. So you can send the crowd home happy type of thing, especially considering what the finish was going to be the next night, which we'll get to. But yeah, probably longer than it needed to be, but there were some interesting things in it. Again, a match that was interesting to see some of the combinations, but it was, there it was.
This might have been legitimately the most interesting moment of the entire weekend in pro wrestling was when Jon Moxley and Jay White were trading blows in the middle of a ring in front of 300 people in New York. It was
a little more than that. I think it was like.
Well, no, I was doing some research and they sold 600 tickets, but scalpers took a bath on the tickets that they couldn't move.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we had that many sold, but not necessarily that many in the building.
There were definitely some tickets you could get in the door at $6 after the show started on things. So you're saying some of those fans were fun night. Some of those fans were dressed up as empty seats, huh? Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, there were definitely fans there, but it looked small. It looked. I want to use the word intimate. It looked like an intimate venue.
Intimate setting.
An intimate night of pro wrestling.
An intimate night of pro wrestling. Well, it was.
It was a lot of fun. It was legitimately the most interesting thing that, we could talk about WWE stealing the show with the Uzi stuff, but if you want to talk about a real poppable pro wrestling moment and watching Jay White and Jon Moxley, unencumbered by anyone else, just beating at each other.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it probably would be pretty good if it ever actually happened in the ring. Although I don't think it's going to happen while both are champions. You can't have a finish. But anyway, moving on to this next one.
Not forever.
Not forever. Rumble on 44th Street, and we're at the 50-minute mark, so I'm going to get things moving here a little bit. We'll get through this card because, again, like we said, it was entertaining, but maybe not the most consequential show. It started off, well, first we had a dark match, which is Kylie Ray and Tiara James. They defeated the Cosmic Angels, Amina Shirakawa and Waka Tsukiyama. And it must have been real hard to make that one look like anything like the Cosmic Angels losing to those two was. That had to be a challenge to make it look good. We didn't see it; it was on the dark match, but the best team lost that one.
I hope they have a plan for that.
Who knows? But first match on the show was that was broadcast on Fight. A House of Torture. Yujiro Takahashi and Sho defeated Chaos with Rocky Romero and Yo. We talked about how this was like the first time Rocky Romero clashed really with one of the first times with Sho since Sho turned heel and things. Not the very first time, but it really wasn't really tackled a whole lot in the match. Nope. They mentioned it on commentary, but they didn't do much with it. And the other part of it is the lights went out and then some very relaxing ambient music like you would get at a spa or a yoga retreat, which brought out Leo Rush.
Lo-fi Leo Rush.
Okay. I mean, we'll see how long this lasts. Leo doesn't tend to stay employed very long, wherever he may go.
He's got to be a tag partner for the tag league, right?
It's the only thing I can think of. I guess he's brought in for that tour.
They're just bringing in guys like Kozlov's gonna have a guy. They're bringing in people and just like, hey, you want to be my partner?
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name down there? Hey, Leo.
If you're a smaller independent worker, the best place you could have been perhaps is outside the New Japan truck with the suitcase full of gear, right? You might get booked. Okay. I mean, look, Leo's a talented guy, but he's very mercurial. He like I said, he doesn't necessarily stay with places very long. I guess he just has to last a tour, right?
Yeah. Like theoretically, like what happens if he doesn't finish the tour?
I know
what really is going to happen.
It's not out of the question
for another 6 months, and then he will come back, and he will somebody will give him another shot. He is that talented, and there's nothing else to say. It's just like the dude is a revolving door. He's here until he's gone, and until it's such a time that he can prove that he is someone who wants to do business for an extended period of time with a company willing to invest in him. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But he is really talented. If he gets his stuff together, there's a lot of possibilities for him. So let's see. We had the This is the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles. This was a title change. We had a title change on the show here. So Aussie Open came in as the champions. Kevin Knight and the DKC were in the match, but the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, won this one. Fine. The match was fine. That was, but a title change that did surprise me a little bit. I thought Aussie Open was going to come out of this one with them.
2 lines of thinking that I have here, and we're going to find out what it's going to be real quick. One, there's eventually going to be a one-on-one match between the Motor City Machine Guns and Aussie Open. And number 2 is that they're going to be in the World Tag League, and they're going to have to take some losses, and they don't want their champions taking losses to random teams in the World Tag League. So, it felt really early to take it off of them, but their stock is rising so quickly that I get it, and they don't, they made those titles, and they've kind of already surpassed them. They could be a 2-time, strong tag title holders or whatever, but if they don't hold them again, I feel like they've gotten their money's worth out of that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that that's a very good point, is that they don't need the belts going into, if they're going into World Tag League. They haven't announced who's in the World Tag League yet, but if they go into World Tag League and have a whole string of really good matches, that does a lot more for them than holding the strong belts and not being in the Tag League. That it's just better off for them. So this is fine. And certainly there's nothing wrong with Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley as a tag team and being your champions. So the next one was a strong open weight title match, singles title. Fred Rosser defeated Jonathan Gresham in 15 minutes of a solid pro wrestling match. I don't feel like it was anything particularly special there, but it wasn't bad. It was a good pro wrestling match.
I kind of felt like this was the opportunity for Jonathan Gresham to prove he still had it in light of everything that kind of went on with him earlier this summer with the Ring of Honor stuff and Claudio and NAEW. And I'm sure he did, but like it was just a match.
Yeah.
That was it. It was just a match. And it was a good match. But it didn't feel like a world title match for the strong title or anything like that. It just felt like a really good match between two really good pro wrestlers.
And it's not like you were left afterwards just saying, "Oh my God, we got to sign this guy and bring him in." It didn't quite accomplish that one, but
he did his job. And if they want to bring him in for more, no one would be like, "Why?" But did he blow anybody away? Nah.
Up next was Wheeler Yuta, Homicide, and Shota Umino. They defeated Team Filthy. That was Tom Lawler, Royce Isaacs, and Jarrell Nelson. The only note I really had for this one was a really good babyface rally at the end for Shota Umino once he got in the ring. And he ended up getting the win with the Death Rider on Jarrell Nelson. But again, this is a guy I think has that potential to be that kind of a pure babyface Tanahashi type. Again, I'm not trying to say he's going to be as good a wrestler as Tanahashi is. I'm not putting that on him. But I think he can be a great babyface. I love the rally here at the end. And I really think there's a ton of potential with this guy. And I was glad to see him get the pinfall in this match. It tells me that I just feel like he's coming back to Japan in a big way fairly soon.
There's a doorway that's ready to burst open with so much talent between Shota and Narita and Yota Tsuji. We've got a next generation of New Japan, like, coming very, very quickly. And these guys, the company's behind them, and they are talented wrestlers. They're about to reap the bounty of a lot of years of investment on a lot of guys. And when you see Shota getting the babyface win over like Wheeler Yuta and Homicide, which both could arguably, you could give them the pin, especially if you're going to have a Lawler Homicide feud. Yuta's getting to be a bigger star of the Blackpool Combat Club, but still, you make sure that Shota gets the shine. Something to be said about that.
Certainly. Yeah, nothing happens by accident in New Japan booking. Just nothing. Minoru Suzuki defeated Clark Connors in a really good match. Clark is a talented dude. The focus was not on Clark, however. It was on the appearance of Ken Shamrock, the all-time legend of mixed martial arts in Japan and certainly in MMA here in America too. One of the earliest stars of UFC. Cool to see him back out there. And of course, afterwards, he and Suzuki had the stare down. Looked like they might fight. King of Pancrase images in our head, and it ended up with an embrace. And then Suzuki does what he very rarely does, which is he shook the hand of Clark Connors afterwards, said, "Fucking young boy," and meant it in an affectionate way. Shook his hand. No complaints about this. I enjoyed it. I think Clark Connors is another guy that has a ton of potential, is going to be a really terrific New Japan wrestler. And of course, losing to Minoru Suzuki hurts nobody at all. So this was good. I was enjoying this.
I really liked the match. I thought the ending and the post-match stuff was cute. There was this point where I was trying to figure out what Minoru Suzuki was saying, and I felt like it was, "You son of a bitch. I never liked you. I've always loved you." And he gives him a hug.
There you go. That could be it. Wow. How about?
And then it's like, "Fucking young boy," and get out of the room. And
yeah,
it's just like he's done a thing. He's old. He's old man Suzuki. It's a formula that's going to work for years.
Yeah, terrific stuff.
Oh, also,
then,
2 of 2 of Suzuki wins, 2 of 2 of Lawler losses.
Not the end of this story either. The SWA Undisputed World Women's Title. Now, what the hell is that? So, this is a title that they have in Stardom because there are a lot of titles in Stardom. Let's start with that. There's a lot of belts. But this is one that is held by Mayu Iwatani, and it has a special purpose here in that the challenger for the title has to come from a different country than the current champion. So as long as Iwatani has it, she can't be challenged by any Japanese wrestlers. If somebody from the United States has it, then no American wrestlers can challenge for it, that type of thing. So that's the idea behind this one. It came about from Stardom working with women's groups in other countries, basically. So it was a title to go around there. So the Kylan King was the challenger for this one. Mayu Iwatani is one of the best female workers on earth. She has some of the best selling you're going to see, male or female, anywhere. Kylan King did a heck of a job hanging with her. All of this build was to Iwatani's wonderful-looking moonsault, and she has a great one. It built to that. She hit it. She won. It was exactly what it should be there. Iwatani is, of course, part of the IWGP women's title tournament, so she had to go over here. But King ended up being a good opponent for her, and this was a good match.
King's come a long way. I've seen more of King than I've seen of Iwatani. I guess that's just because of the AEW factor. King looked great. Did the job of being a great opponent base. Talent to work against Mayu. And when people tell you that these Stardom women are talented, man, they're not fucking kidding. The best WWE women I would like to see in the ring with the best Stardom women to see just how good they really are.
You kind of get to, and I'll tell you why, because, Io Shirai and Kairi Sane were, or, Kairi Hojo is what she used to. Now she's just Kairi. As Iwatani called her Kairi Hojo, and then there was a whole back and forth between the two about she's only Kairi now on the microphone at a show not too long ago. But you see that. You can see the quality because Io Shirai came to the WWE and it was immediately one of the better female workers there. Asuka was, worked for other companies in addition. She's not the homegrown Stardom person that Iwatani is. Neither Io had worked other places too. But you see the quality there. You saw how good Kairi Sane was in WWE and that they absolutely could hang with the very best and sometimes were better than them. But you're right. I mean, the idea of like a Bianca, a Becky, if Sasha returns to WWE, that kind of quality, this is what we're talking about with these women.
High caliber.
They are very, very good workers. So I'm looking forward to it.
High caliber talent. You see it in a basic match. The fundamentals are so strong, and then their ability to tell a story beyond that, like it's next level talenting. And this is a polished, finished product. So if you're thinking you're gonna see like female talent that's just not quite up to the caliber of what you watch in New Japan, I think you're gonna be sorely mistaken and pleasantly surprised.
Very well said. I think, and Kairi and Mayu Iwatani, I'm sure, are going to have a wonderful match on November 20th. I'm really fired up about seeing it. Next up, the New York City Street Fight for the King of Pro Wrestling title, Shingo Takagi and El Phantasmo. I got to say that when this match started, I was worried because I thought the first few minutes of this weren't particularly great. And I just kept thinking, why don't they just let these guys wrestle? Why does it always have to be this gimmick? Some sort of silly stipulation or anything like that. This did pick up toward the end. This got better. They both used mist on one another. I did appreciate Ian Riccaboni trying his best to explain why some of this bullshit is at ringside for them to use on each other. So he had explanations like, well, the tables are here for the catering for the crew.
No, that ladder specifically for the match.
Yes. And then he finally just said, but really, like sometimes you have a ladder to fix the lights, but that thing's there just so they can jump off it or hit each other with it. I appreciated the effort. What can I say? In the end, this did get a little bit better. And in the end, I thought it was a decent match. Not what these guys are capable of in just a doggone straight wrestling match. I wish they would just do that. It's hard to do all these stipulations and then just do a wrestling match. So this feud isn't what I was hoping it was going to be for two guys I really like to watch. But if this is the capper and it's finally the end, as Shingo Takagi hit the last of the dragon on the table.
Is it the end?
And then a pile driver on the chair.
It's not.
It
literally could go either way at this point. If Shingo Takagi ends up matched up with another opponent in the next couple weeks, I'll be over the moon. Yeah. But if El Phantasmo turns around and is not quite done with Shingo Takagi going into Wrestle Kingdom, like, are you really that shocked?
I guess not.
We'll wrap this all up with a bow at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what that stipulation would be.
I don't know, but There are times where sometimes you just have to have two guys feud with each other because everyone else has stuff going on. But I would have expected more because this felt like just a match. Just a match. Like just a lot of hitting each other with shit that these guys don't need to
These guys don't need to be taking these bumps. Just don't need to.
When you have a match like this, it either needs to be innovative or fresh, and was neither innovative nor fresh.
It's a good point. I feel like we see street fight-esque, either literal street fight matches or street fight-esque matches all the time. Somebody's hitting each other with 50 weapons on WWE TV every week. You're seeing the same thing. AEW, good Lord, there's all kinds of ridiculousness with that type of stuff. And I like AEW. I like WWE. It is a thing where when everybody does it, it's never special. And I think that's where we are with some of these street fight things, that it just kind of slides off your back. And none of it seems particularly interesting anymore, just because somebody on some channel is hitting each other with ladders and chairs all the time. So it just seems like a lot of wear and tear on bodies that isn't really yielding results. And I'm kind of repelled by that a little.
I mean, like we saw what it did to Kenta when he had a match with Tanahashi in January, and we lost him for 6 months, and he's come back and Heartthrob Kenta with the long hair is really doing it for me. I gotta say, I haven't had an opportunity to tell you that, but this new Heartthrob Kenta look going on, I can get behind this. It's,
okay. So if you're happy, I'm happy.
Evil bully Heartthrob Kenta.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
like out of a John Hughes movie.
Sure. Yeah, just the guy that's going to get thrown in the trash can at the end.
That's right.
I know why New Japan does street fights to Americanize their product and make it so that people are familiar with things that are in more Western wrestling, but it's not what I go to New Japan for. So,
Amen,
you kind of have to take the good with the bad and just know that you're not always going to get the product that you want to see, but know that the product has to exist and deliver something in a certain way. So I wasn't the audience for this one, and I'll move on.
Up next, the main event, the special match of the Bullet Club was Jay White and Juice Robinson against Kazuchika Okada and Eddie Kingston. The early part of this match, Jeremy, was worked like a traditional tag team match in America. I felt like Eddie took the heat playing Ricky Morton there, getting beaten down while Okada tried to make the tag. There was a lot of that. Good work from White and Robinson as kind of like a traditional just asshole cut 'em off tag team. And at the end, I did make a little note here that the wrestlers on this show act like they are being paid by the chop. There were a lot of chops on this show, on a lot of different matches. And this was another one where it just seemed like we're just going to go out and chop. And so many matches had those stand there and chop back and forth. I wish they would kind of watch the other matches a little bit and realize that that's already happened 3 times tonight. We don't need to keep doing it. So in the end, though, this ended up being a good match that was also long, but I thought it was better than the elimination match the night before. But this one was 20 minutes instead of 30. It ended up with Jay White hitting a low blow on Eddie Kingston and hitting the Blade Runner, that keeping the world champion strong. I understand that. Pinning Eddie. Eddie had his moment where he and Moxley threw Jay White out to win the night before. So no complaints about the booking of this one, but again, as it felt like a house show type of main event. The champion is in a tag match. It's a bit of a preview of Okada and White, but of course they didn't really hit their finishers on one another, that type of thing. It was a good match, but main event of a $30 pay-per-view. Yeah.
I didn't care for the main event of this. I'm not sure if it was where it was or that the match under-delivered. I felt like it under-delivered given the caliber of the talent in that match. I just, you tell me that Jay White, Eddie Kingston, Kazuchika Okada, and yes, Robinson are all 4 in a tag together. My expectations aren't through the roof, but they're pretty high. And it didn't feel like my expectations were met. And I don't know if my expectations were high or whatnot, but if you'd done this match in Japan, how much bigger would it have been? How much bigger would it have felt? How much how much energy do you feel like? Do people take Eddie Kingston for granted in New York? Were they expecting just the big hometown pop and do this? Would it have been better if it was a singles match? It was Eddie Kingston versus Jay White. Eddie Kingston could have lost that match, but maybe, Tony Khan didn't want Eddie Kingston to lose that match in a tag. A tag was a lot more palatable for whatever reason, but it just felt like this match had to make too many people happy in order to happen, and too many people in order for it to be satisfying.
I like the match a little bit more than you did, to be fair.
Yeah.
I thought the actual match itself was, but I don't disagree. Again, it just felt very safe from a booking standpoint. Yeah. It's like, let's just not offend anyone. And again, like, charge the fans.
We're on a path, and let's not deviate.
Yeah. So there it was. It was Rumble on 44th Street. It was a couple of shows there in New York, and I hope that the next time they come back to New York with main roster New Japan guys, that it's a bigger show, and maybe in a couple of years. I don't know if New Japan is right. They certainly couldn't do something like the G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden. It's right now the fans just aren't there for it. It's not it's not hot enough as a product to do it. I hope maybe next time they come back, they wait a little while, and when it's and then actually put on a big show in the States, and maybe not so much these kind of sample platters, so to speak.
Well, I mean, when I went to the New Japan of San Jose the last time I went, I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was a big moment between Okada and maybe Jonah. But Okada had a big moment where he made a declaration about something, and it made like the internet news on like a San Jose like house show. And I don't remember what else. They need to do more stuff like that. They need to make it so that when you go to these shows and a big deal setting up a big main event elsewhere, like that's going to get the interest way more than what they're doing. Like make it so that you might miss something very, very cool at a New Japan show that like has a bigger impact on the ecosphere of New Japan than, show up, have fun, peace out.
Fair enough. So we were moving on here. Now we're at an hour and 11 minutes. So we're going to move through a lot of the show on the Chiba. So there was a show on the 30th in Chiba in front of about 493 people. And this is a little convention hall in Chiba that actually has a pretty cool television aesthetic. Like they have the two grand staircases in the background and things so you can go from one level to the other in this convention hall. And it's kind of a cool looking room, but they had a show here, and we're going to go past the undercard. We've already talked about how these are preview matches for things that are coming up on November 5th. So we'll run that down later. The main point of this was we had another round, the quarterfinals of the television title tournament. This is where we saw Ren Narita and Toru Yano have their next round match against each other. And we did get all of the Yano tricks in this one, Jeremy. He took off all the turnbuckle pads, all four of them. He taped Narita's ankles together. He catapulted him into a corner for a good near fall, I got to say. When he hit the catapult, Narita hits the corner, staggers out of it into the roll-up. Some of those fans were believing they were going to see the pin there. He didn't. Ended up being a triangle choke. 8 minutes, 47 seconds. So this was a little bit more like a Yano match than what we saw with like Yano wrestling with Great Khan more. Not none, but it wasn't that there was no wrestling, but this felt a little more like a Yano match. But Narita got the win, and which is what we were hoping for, especially considering the results of the next match. So I'm good with this. You can do this as long as Narita goes over in the end.
It was like Narita doesn't have time for Yano's bullshit. Once he got past the bullshit, he beat him quickly. And that's exactly what you needed to do.
And then the main event of that one was Sanada and Kenta in a really good match, 13 minutes and 5 seconds. Kenta kind of ran the clock early, which I thought was a fun little thing that no one had done in the tournament. We'd seen a lot of fast starts. Instead, Kenta slid out of the ring, and then when Sanada would chase him, he'd slide back in, and he was actually running the clock, kind of putting the pressure on Sanada to chase him. And there's the bracket there, so you get to see that. And then, in the end, it was actually the one criticism I have, Jeremy, is the finish was the same spot as the previous match where the guy crashed into the buckle and got rolled up, only this time it was for the pin. So it's rare for New Japan to kind of do the same thing twice like that in that way.
Maybe Kenta should just be paying attention to how people lose their matches.
Maybe he should. That's right. But there it was. But I would think they would come up with something else there. But either way, the match was good, and it sets up Sanada versus Ren Narita, which I'm all in on.
David, let's see, Zack Sabre Jr. and Evil and Sanada and Ren Narita and the final four of this tournament. Man, that's a pretty looking bracket. Those are some good matchups, and I would be happy with any 4 of those people moving on to the next bracket.
I'm looking at it.
I'd be fine.
I'm looking at it right there. I'm going to make my prediction here. Evil against Narita on January 4th. I think that's who's going to win those matches. But like you, I would not be upset at all if Zack Sabre Jr. got through. And Sonata is always a terrific wrestler. I would kind of be surprised if it were Sonata, just because, like we mentioned in the clip that we replayed, I feel like you either get rid of Narita early in this one or go all the way with him. I still feel like it's all the way.
You put him in a single title match in January. That's what you do. Like, there's no benefit to Sonata challenging for that title on January 4th. There's nothing to it. Like,
And
there's absolutely there's nothing to gain from a G1 finalist like winning a TV sprint title. I don't see it. And so to me, like, Ren Narita getting that push to maybe win a title on the biggest night of his singles career, so early in his career, maybe sending a message. I don't think there's a wrong direction with Narita at this point, but because that dude is hungry and he's talented.
He is. I feel also, though, that they are taking him seriously enough and portraying him seriously enough that they want his first loss to really mean something.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't think it's going to happen in the semifinals of this tournament. I feel like if anything, it'll be at the Dome in a what they hope is probably a really great sprint match. So even if they do it then, they might put the belt on him. I wouldn't even have any problem with that. It might be a good idea. But his first loss should be important. And the way they are pushing him, putting him over Ishii, putting him over Yana, having him win most of his preview tags, unless he's teaming with the Young Lion, and then the Young Lion takes the fall. I think they want his first loss to mean something, and that's not going to be against Sonata in the semis. Yeah.
No. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Did you ever get a chance to watch that Narita match on Strong? That no qualification match?
I sure did. Yeah, the bloodbath there. That was I mean, he's
on another level, man. Like, that dude is just on another level right now. Like,
it's pretty special.
Checkers and chess when it comes to pro wrestling.
Yeah, he's really picked up on it, and I mean, it's obvious about the Shibata influence on there. But it's one thing to teach him that; it's another for someone to really get the character and get the timing of it the way he does. Mm-hmm. So he's come a very long way. Yeah, he doesn't just know how to do the moves the way Shibata did them, but he already kind of knows when. And that's usually only comes with experience. So he's a little wise beyond his years.
He's incredibly talented. So how about we skip Strong and we'll cover it next week, and we just preview the show on the 5th with a couple of matches, and maybe touch on Karl Anderson and see what we think about all that, and we'll take this thing home.
Well, let's do that, because and the other thing I wanted to mention from these shows, they announced this is just for me. I was very happy to see that Fantastica Mania is coming back in January. They made that announcement there. We don't know that Fantastica Mania is the tour they do usually in January and early February in Japan, kind of off the heels of Wrestle Kingdom, when some of those stories are just kind of getting going. Some Wrestle Kingdom. Some stories begin, others end, and there's this nice little quiet period where they bring in guys from Mexico, the CMLL guys, and have a fun tour where they take away the barricades because there's all the diving, and sometimes they bring an Exotico over, and there's a little bit of comedy in there, and then so
a lot of people going hard at Wrestle Kingdom. They need a little bit outside talent to make sure that they have rosters to fill after.
Exactly, and let some of those guys heal up and rest up, but. The main thing, though, Jeremy, that I'm looking forward to on this one is just seeing that, because it's been a couple of years of the pandemic, they couldn't do it. And it is a nice little breath of fresh air to get these new guys in. It's usually a lot of fun, especially the Korakuen Hall shows. And I'm definitely glad to see that Fantastica Mania is able to happen again in January. So
definitely a familiarity to the calendar and the roster that is feeling a lot more New Japan-ish rather than New Japan doing this event now. Does that make any sense? Like, it feels like the New Japan flow is moving at the pace it's supposed to.
Good. Yeah, I'm enjoying everything right now, and I'm looking forward to that. Then we have we wanted to mention Karl Anderson, the saga that'll never end. There's not a whole lot of news. There's a lot of in-character shit going on right there. Basically, the key is, as we get to this match here on November 5th in Osaka, this is where he was supposed to be defending the never openweight title against Hikuleo. That's not happening. He's also not stripped of the title. There's the match that's happening. Boy, and I know the world's waiting for this one. Hikuleo against Yujiro Takahashi. I think, this is an obvious Hikuleo victory, probably with the choke slam, clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring, I'm thinking. And I have a feeling that we're on angle alert here. I think we might get a video message from Karl Anderson. I still think this match is happening eventually. We're seeing WWE open to guys appearing for other companies in special circumstances. I think he might come and drop this thing. At this point, I would just like to know when and where it's actually going to happen. And because a lot of the talk about it, I know it's been frustrating you even more than me as to when and if this match is going to happen with Karl Anderson. But this is what we're getting on the 5th. But the fact that they didn't strip Karl Anderson of the title when they kind of said that they would, Hikuleo is still mentioning Karl Anderson by name in his post-match comments and even on the microphone in front of the crowd. Right now, this match is still happening. We're just not sure when. I think we're going to find out when on the 5th, though.
I made it clear the last time we talked about that I don't think this match between Anderson and Hikuleo is going to happen at all. I still feel like it's not going to happen, mainly because we are counting on the benevolence of WWE, a company that, yes, has gone through some culture and mentality shifts as of recent, and you could make arguments about certain events that have happened. But until I see Karl Anderson in a ring versus Hikuleo in a match, it's hard for me to believe that this is going to happen. And it's just nothing to do with New Japan. This is all WWE. This is all how they operate. And I just feel like I've been to this dance many times, and I know how this dance goes. Mm-hmm. So Hikuleo doesn't need any extra obstacles to build him into the monster that he is clearly going to be. Is Karl Anderson so valuable that they must have him in order to get Hikuleo where he needs to go? I don't know. Have they dug themselves a hole so deep that you kind of have to deliver this match? Absolutely. Do I understand why they did that? Not even remotely. But Here we are. And there are enough people who I respect telling me that this is all part of a bigger plan that I just have to put my hands up in the air and say, well, I'm just going to see the plan as it goes.
Yeah, it's definitely a show me situation. I just feel like everyone's staying in character here. Everyone is keeping on with the story. And I'm looking at it directly from the New Japan position on it is if WWE did screw them over with this whole booking Karl Anderson at Crown Jewel and kind of leaving New Japan out to dry, I think that if they didn't have an agreement in place for him to come again later, that they would just say, oh, well, we've learned our lesson. We cut bait. We're not going to get Karl Anderson. We'll take the title away and we'll just never mind it. And the fact that all this is happening publicly and everybody's saying each other's names publicly still makes me feel like it's still going to happen. So that's where I'm leaning. We'll find it. One of us is going to be right eventually, someday, maybe.
There's just this flight of fantasy that I feel like could take an effect where somebody just wakes up like, why are we even bothering? And it all falls apart.
There you go. Well,
that's really like somebody's going to wake up like, this is really too much trouble that it's worth. And this is like, you know what, you're right. And we're done. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that this all works according to plan because wrestling is better when everybody cooperates. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, but, and we're not asking. Keep in mind for all the fun, we're not asking for like cross promotional mega cards here. That's not what we're looking for. We just want the guy to come in and drop that goddamn belt. So never mind, move on with his life. He's making good money in WWE. Good for him. The guy's got kids. He should make all the money he can. The
positions that everyone has managed to put themselves in during this entire situation.
Contortions.
Good on the people that are in the driver's seat, and boo on the people that have to strap in the seatbelt and sit for the ride.
We'll see.
You've made your decision.
All right. Well, we've been talking about a match that isn't going to happen on the 5th, but there are some pretty good matches that are going to happen on the 5th, by God. This is in Osaka, and, you usually get good crowds there. You usually get enthusiastic ones, and we got a pretty good card. So the first match, they're going to open with this one, Jeremy. At least that's according to NJPW1972.com. It is Titan and Bushi challenging Francesco Akira and TJP for the junior heavyweight tag team titles. All the previews of this one have been good. I'm looking forward to it. And we kind of analyzed this one earlier. We don't care who wins. We think everyone's a winner, and this is a matchup that we hope to see over and over again in New Japan. I think these are 4 very talented guys. Titan's a good addition. Looking forward to the match. Don't really care who wins in a good way. I mean, I'm happy with either of them as champion.
Look at how photogenic Titan is. Man, he's just commanding that photo right there. Owning it. Damn.
He's a terrific
win
wrestler.
just off of that glare. All right, what do we got
next? It'll be fun. Alex Zane, David Finlay, Toriano, and Hiroshi Tanahashi against Gideon Gray, Aaron Hinare, and Aussie Open. So that'll be a fairly interesting one. I don't think Gideon Gray is going to come out of that one unscathed, but that one it should be all right. But I mean, that's just going to be kind of a fun filler there, I think. Then we mentioned Hikuleo versus Yujiro Takahashi. We mentioned that one with already. And then we're going to have the TV tournament semifinals. So we're going to see Ren Narita versus Sonata. Both looking forward to that one. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Evil, which has all that backstory that we talked about earlier. So then we're going to find out who's going to meet for that TV title to be the first champion at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom. After that, the wild card tag team match. We're going to have Hiromu Takahashi, El Desperado, Master Wato, and Taiji Ishimori and we are going to draw names out of a hat, I guess. I'm not sure how they're going to do this.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to be where, what, when.
Yeah, we don't know how
to be determined. It could be anybody.
There will be a straight tag team match out of this, but no one's going to know who anyone's partner is until the show. So
I'm going to guess Taiji and Takahashi versus Despi and Wato.
Okay. What makes you think that? Just that?
I just think that Hiromu is the top babyface right now, and Taiji is the top heel. And so playing off that dynamic, as they show that the other two are more than capable of jumping on their inability to cooperate. Sounds like a really great story.
Okay. Well, there you have it. I think the most effective finish they could do for this one, and you're not wrong, that would be an interesting one. I think the most effective finish they could do in this one is somehow, some way, Master Wato pinning Ishimori. I think he's the one that could really use the biggest boost. Desperado and Hiromu Takahashi are pretty much made men, as is Ishimori. The only person that's kind of the underdog in this one is Wato. I think if Wato gets the pinfall win in this match, whether it's over Ishimori or not, Wato gets his hand held up at the end of this one, could help his stock going into that match. And he's the only one that needs a little boost for this one. So
what if Wato pinned Takahashi because Ishimori just walked away?
Oh, see, man, there's a lot of things
there
you can do.
There it is. I like it. We'll see how that goes. A very specific prediction.
Very specific. Tama Tonga and Kazuchika Okada against Kenta and Jay White. Straight up preview of the Tokyo Dome main event right there. And then we will see, at long last, the IWGP World Tag Team Champions, FTR.
With the fancy image.
Yeah, look at that. FTR coming to Japan for the first time to defend their titles against the Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. So there's that one. And then the main event, the IWGP US Heavyweight title, you're looking at it there on the screen. Tetsuya Naito challenging Will Ospreay. There is no chance of this match being anything but fabulous, I think, unless somebody gets hurt early. These two are great together. We haven't seen it over and over again, so there are new wrinkles they could bring to it. The match they had in the G1 semifinals was wonderful, and this is one that I think could end up being a real fun thing to watch. And I still think that Ospreay's outgrown that title. Might be time for Tetsuya Naito to take it, but could go either way. Just feels like Ospreay's destined for bigger things.
I definitely think that Ospreay and Omega may potentially be having a date at Wrestle Kingdom, and Naito walking into Wrestle Kingdom with the title feels right.
Yes, please.
So that's where I'm at on that. And I'm looking forward to talking about this match in depth next week when we reconvene.
That's right. And so, again, and we're going to cover that, of course. That's going to be the main topic of conversation, along with any other news that happens. We're also, Tamashi, the Oceania promotion, is going to be starting on the 11th. Bad Luck Fale, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori have been announced for those shows, so we're going to preview that. We'll talk about Strong. We're going to kick around the Osaka show and anything else that comes up. So with that in mind, we've hit our time. It's about an hour and a half. So, Jeremy, what are your socials? We'll let these people go back to their lives now that we've updated them on everything they need to know about New Japan.
As on the crawl, you can find me at Jer Finestone on Twitter. You can find Stephen Conway at Stephen Conway88 as you look on down. And we will join you there and on the YouTube comments when you give us feedback.
Absolutely. And so, and again, my history website is ringsidereplay.com, and it'll be coming back soon with the new content. I've been working on it. So with that in mind, Jeremy, thanks. Always enjoy it. And we'll see you next week. And for the people at home watching, we appreciate you. And thank you for watching Speaking of Strong Style. We'll be back with you very soon.